interesting how the Lord works, man. Sometimes we fret, we falter, but it's when we remember. Bill Johnson would always say, when you are struggling to hear God's voice, remember. And you think back and look back on everything, you're like, man, he has never let me down, So it's like, he's gonna take care of me. He's gonna work his situation out, But it's just remembering his goodness and his faithfulness,
Which is like a practice you have to employ, especially like during, the trying times.
Yeah.
Or transition. That's something I've been learning a lot about recently. Is like, especially not only in hard times, but I've been reading in Deuteronomy where it's like these people are preparing to go into the promised land.
Yeah.
Like they're in this transition.
Yeah.
And what's emphasized over and over is like, remember to listen to the voice of the Lord, right? To do everything that he commands. If you do this, you'll be blessed. If not, you'll be cursed.
Yeah.
And, like during, and then it talks about remembering and doing and listening.
Right.
And if you do those things, then, you will be prosperous in the new land. And it's, I feel like always during times of transition and difficult times as well, we're really susceptible just to forgetting those things. So it's like, you have to like practice remembering, practice listening, practice doing, and like make it a discipline in order to survive and thrive.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense,
Yeah, no, I think it is, I almost wonder too, why we fall into this kind of trap of like worry and fret, is because we take our eyes off of Jesus and his goodness and his faithfulness, and remembering that, and we kind of focus on our circumstances, our present circumstances that are beforehand, before us, sorry. And I don't know. I think it, like you said, maybe does take some sort of practice to really lean in and remember and like listen and stay connected as well, instead of like taking ourselves out of that connection with the Holy Spirit, with the Father,
Yeah.
And, focusing on how am I going to fix this situation rather than just focusing on God and his goodness and his faithfulness and praising him for that. God, you've never let me down. You've always been there. Like David, he would, why so downcast, oh my soul, but yet will I praise. He would just still, he would have his moment, but then he would be like, it's like he would remember God's goodness and his faithfulness. And then boom, he was back into this moment of triumph and praise,
Yeah, that maintaining connection.
Yeah.
That's something I see a lot in the Psalms. Like you mentioned David.
Yeah.
Is like, it's not necessarily about how much you're complaining or you're not.
Yeah.
Although I don't believe we should like live a life of complaint. But there are times where we submit our complaints, right?
Yeah.
Even if we're wrong, like sometimes I know, okay, what I'm saying is wrong, but I need to say it. And so then I say it. And then I say, oh, forgive me. Like I know where my heart is at, but at least you know how I'm feeling, God, right?
Yeah.
So like there's that part. There's the complaints, all those things, right?
Yeah.
The grief, and then there's also the praise. But like the common theme through all of that is connection, is staying connected.
Yeah.
And learning to practice communication, learning to practice hearing, right? Again, hearing, listening, remembering.
Yeah.
Make those things practices so that whatever the season that you're in, the connection is never broken.
Right.
I really think like that's the Christian life is a lot about being connected, right? Even if you're struggling with something and you're wrestling with sin, but if you're still connected, like that's where you find the grace.
Yeah.
That's where you find the grace to overcome.
Right.
And so even where we're at now, not that we're like in sin or something, I'm just saying in general, difficulties every day at work or wherever else, but
sure,
like just practicing, I'm going to remember, God, the promises that you said, the things you've spoken, practice remembering, practice listening in the present, and then practice doing the things that you're hearing.
Yeah.
It's kind of simple, but man, that's like the hardest thing I've ever dealt with, I think, in my life.
Yeah.
It's like just staying connected in those simple things. Or else you kind of get lost in the hardship or lost in the transition.
Right. Yeah, abiding.
Abiding, yeah.
So important.
So yeah, it's so important. It really is like, it's simple.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like a life or death type of thing. Like how do you, I mean, I say that because you have to die, like really to abide.
Yeah.
And then in abiding, you find life. And like
Paul said, I die daily.
Exactly. Yeah. Daily death. That's what it is.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. Well, we want to welcome you to the show. We have a special guest with us today, Gabe Kepler. He is a songwriter and artist with Anchored Music, and we're so excited to have him here today. And so, welcome, Gabe, to the podcast.
Thank you. that title seems a bit lofty for me. I don't really think of myself as like a songwriter or an artist. Or I mean, I am, but I'm not saying this just to like try to be humble or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes you live life and then somehow titles are kind of ascribed to you, and you look back and you say like, how did I get to this point?
Yeah.
But for me, like being a songwriter was more of just like me journaling down things during my devotional time with God.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I kind of just like hear a melody or something and just, I got so many prophetic words over my life that God wanted me to journal.
Yeah.
And to write things down, which is something I really struggled with for a long time.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't like journaling. I feel like it
me
takes
too.
away from the moment. That's what I used to think.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's been like the past 7 years, like been working on journaling things down and writing them so I could remember.
Yeah.
And that's that somehow turned into like songwriting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just journaling things down and whatnot.
Right.
But anyways.
That's cool, man. Well, there's a lot of great songwriters are like that. Things that start with journaling and then it turns into a song later, So, I would say you're a songwriter still, man.
I guess so. And I believe that's something that God has like spoken over me too. It's just, you kind of I don't know. I'm not like a traditional songwriter. Perhaps I didn't study or something like that, it just happens with God. I think songs kind of are a natural overflow of like a life of worship. Yeah. So. Yeah,
you're like David, man, where he was a king.
I guess I don't know if I'm a king.
He was a worshiper. He was a warrior.
Yeah.
But he was also a psalmist.
That's true. Yeah.
So
multifaceted. That's a good point.
Yeah. So you have all these aspects too. I think it's a part of the journey where we sing, we worship. There's a time to praise, and there's a time to mourn, there's a time to laugh, and so I think it's all a part of the journey where almost anybody can be creative, and because our Father in heaven is the ultimate creator. He created all the universes, and everything in it. So it makes sense that we're created in His image, and so therefore, some days you might write and sing, some days you might,
go to war.
Go to war. Or preach the gospel, to thousands or masses. Or for you, I know you do missionary work in Africa, part of the time of the year. So there's all these multifacets to you, So yeah, man. Well, tell us a little bit about your new song. You have a new song coming called Through the Storms. Okay, cool. Tell us a little bit about that.
So that song, just like kind of what we were talking about. It was. There's a lot to say because it's a song that's limited to a certain number of lyrics, but those lyrics represent a much larger time in my life. Does that make sense? Yeah. It represents like an entire season that I walked through, and the seasons before that led to that season, because everything's kind of connected. Yeah. So that's, I mean, in a nutshell, that's what Through the Storms is for me, is a representation of my experiences. And to get into that a little bit, the song itself talks about, like the way I actually wrote it was, I think it was early last year, like February or March, this is 2022. And I was in my room rereading through the Sermon on the Mount, right? And which for me has like been such an important part of like Jesus's teachings, And I came to the very end of it, and Jesus talks about, I will paraphrase, but it's something more or less like the one who listens to what I'm saying is like the man who built his house upon the rock. And it says, and the winds came, or it says, and the rains came, and actually, I pulled it up on my phone.
Yeah.
So I could quote it correctly.
Yeah.
Here we go. It says, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on rock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat out that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who builds his house on sand. The rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat against that house and it fell, and great was its fall.
Wow.
And so that's how, the next line is, now Jesus had finished saying these things. So that was literally the last part of the Sermon on the Mount. And some people say that's the most profound sermon or teaching of Jesus, right? Was that whole, those few chapters. And he ends it by saying, person who does these things, it's like you built your house on the rock. And so when I read that part where it said, right here, the rains fell and the floods came and the winds blew. The time when I was reading it last year and I was in my room, I heard a rhythm. I read it rhythmically. It was weird because I never experienced that. And I am a drummer though, so I kind of communicate through rhythm.
Yeah.
But I heard it in a rhythm.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this rhythm and this melody came to me, and it was like in the rainfall as the floods come and the winds blow, and I that kept in my mind, and in that moment I remember God had spoken to me at some point in the past to about writing songs and just journaling things down and stuff. So I was like, okay, I should just jump on this. So I grabbed the guitar, and that kind of just came out. Was in the rainfall as the floods come and the winds blow. And then I began to reflect on that. In the rainfall as the floods come and the winds blow, still I'm alive. Because why? Because I built my house upon the rock. And what is the rock? It's the teaching of Jesus.
Yeah.
It's the ways of Jesus. And so that's how that song was birthed.
Wow.
And it opens up with, upon this rock I stand,
Yeah,
away from the fading sand. And it's about, I stand on the teachings, it's really the ways, the character of Jesus. Upon this rock I stand, away from the fading sand, I'm safe within your hand. So it's a very simple song. The bridge also, I'm just kind of reviewing the lyrics, right? Yeah. But the bridge is, I will seek first your kingdom.
Yeah.
That's straight from Matthew 6, seek first the kingdom of God and all these things will be given to you.
Yes. Yeah.
I will give ear to your word. It's about the people literally listening, and the man who listens to these words hears them and does them, right? Will be like the man who builds his house upon the rock.
Yeah.
I will give ear to your word. I build my life upon your wisdom. So the man who builds his house again on the rock, which is his wisdom, through the storms I will endure.
Wow.
And it's about the house enduring through the storms, the rainfall, the floods, and the winds that come against it. It's a very simple song.
Yeah.
And it's all reflection basically on the Sermon on the Mount in that last paragraph where it talks about that. Basically, in a nutshell, Jesus is saying, you will have longevity and you will survive. Not just survive, but you'll thrive if you listen to what I'm saying. If you hear it and you listen to it and you do it.
Wow.
So it's a very simple song, and it's a reflection on, the Sermon on the Mount essentially, and the wisdom of Jesus.
Wow. Very profound, man.
Yeah. There's a lot I could go into about just my life in general, but it represented a season I was in of really having to repent for not doing those things. Actually, that's where it came from. Yeah, and that's why the bridge is a declaration of, I will seek first your kingdom. I will give ear to your word. I build my life upon your wisdom. Because for me, when I wrote that, it's these are the things I'm now committing to. Because I went through a season where I didn't do those things. Yeah. But now I realize my folly. Yeah. And how I need to correct. And so part of that song is repentance of not listening to the what Jesus said, right? Yeah. And it's a declaration of okay, going forward, I know what I need to do. So there's a lot there. It's a deep song, but it's also really simple,
Yeah. No, it's very deep, very profound. I love songs like that where it seems simple on the outside, but underneath lies this iceberg.
Yeah, right.
It goes way deep into the foundations. Wow, that's really awesome. Tell me a little bit of the story. There's also a testimony attached to this, right? When you were writing, Can you tell us a little bit about the testimony?
You mean like regarding like Anchored and how it? Yeah. So I kind of hinted on this song represents my life. Like before I wrote that song, you know, the seasons leading up into it, and then after I actually wrote the song, during that time, you know, Anchored Music was technically non-existent as like a formal thing. It was kind of just like a couple of us writing songs. Sam was like, you know, writing some lyrics and stuff and submitting them. I was doing the same, and that's kind of why I decided to, you know, write the song down. And another guy, Jordan, as well, was helping us like put them together. And then like maybe once a week or a couple of times a month, we'd get together and just songwrite and collaborate. So I had the song basically written, all the lyrics, the melody, and I submitted it, or I just played it in front of them. And Sam was like, wow, this is like really powerful and simple, you know? So fast forward, Anchored got a little bit more traction, and we started to record. I think that may have been the first song ever like recorded by Anchored Music.
Wow.
Or attempted, right? The first song that we attempted to record. I don't think that exact version it's not the one that's coming out, but it has gone through a few iterations. But nevertheless, Sam told me like, hey, I want to record the song. We booked a studio date, which was on a Wednesday. And then this was like in the middle of summer too. I think it was August or September, which in California is very, very warm. Like the hottest months, right?
That's pretty much summer right there.
Yeah. That's like the peak of summer for us. So, we were in the studio, supposed to be there on a Wednesday, and like last minute cancellation we had to move it back one day. So now it's on a Thursday. We're in the studio. It's like super hot that day. It's like 95 degrees. I'm in there with the engineer. We're recording the song, and another guy was there too. And I hadn't picked a name for the song yet. It was just like, they just kept calling it like Rock or Upon This Rock.
Oh, okay.
And cause that's the first lyric, but I was like, I don't think that's the name. Like, I don't feel like that's it. And I turned to the guy next to me and I was like, I feel like the name is Through the Storms. And that's the line in the bridge, through the storms I will endure. I was like, I feel like that's the name. I think I want to name the song Through the Storms. And that was like 6 p.m. I said that. I remember. It's about when we started. We ended up walking outside at like 11 p.m. or 11:30. We were about to finish, and there was like this random storm. It was like raining, and I think it was hailing. Out of nowhere, we're talking like middle of summer. That was not in the forecast, right? This random summer storm comes as we're recording a song, Through the Storms, that I named that day, Through the Storms. Now that's what happened on this side. The other side of that was that same night, Sam, again, who, you know, started Anchor Music. He also has a screen printing business. So that's kind of how he started like funding this to begin with.
Anchor Prints.
Anchor Prints, correct. Anchored, part of the Anchored family. So like we print merchandise and apparel and stuff like that, screen printing.
This is one of his shirts right here.
Here we go. That's one of the Anchored Music shirts. Which we print in our facility.
You want to copy, click the link down below.
Yeah, check it out. There's a lot of good merch. I actually bought some for like presents and stuff. Just because for other people, because it's really good. And for myself. So that same night we're recording the song, like I think during that week, Sam in his warehouse, which is like a 14,000 square foot warehouse, they with his dad, who's a contractor, they took off the entire roof of the building. A big warehouse, like the whole roof. There was no roof. And all the machinery in there was just exposed, right? The offices, there's no roof at all. It's just clear skies. But they did it in the middle of summer. Why? Because there shouldn't be any rain. And they checked the forecast before they did it. And it was only like maybe a couple day process, I think, to basically put in the new roof. But randomly that night, there was that random summer storm out of nowhere. And literally the entire shop was flooded with like a couple inches of rain. And we're talking, it was like heavy. I think it was hailing too, like I mentioned. And Sam has there's like several millions of dollars worth of equipment in that facility.
Screen printing machines.
There were like 9 machines in there. There's embroidery machines. There's offices with computers. And literally, like, I guess they told me later that even the offices they flooded, there was like water coming down the stairs. There was a good, pile of water covering the ground, and it was just raining on all of the machinery. And Sam,
and his dad said something about wires exposed or something like that.
Oh yeah, and then so for Sam, the way he tells it, and I mentioned it before.
Yeah.
He was on the phone with a mutual friend of ours, and he was like encouraging him. This guy was going through a ton of issues in his business, and he was like, I just want to fire all my employees and just transition and do this. And Sam was like, no, you gotta stick, like you gotta hang in there. He's like, he said something about like hanging in there, like through storms and stuff.
Oh,
he's like encouraging this guy, and then like Sam gets off the phone and was just like so pumped because he's just like preaching to him and stuff.
He just talked him off the ledge.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, bro, don't jump out. And then right after he hangs up, I guess his dad, he had missed calls from his dad.
Yes.
And so he calls his dad back, and his dad was like helping him with the business at that time with some stuff. And so his dad calls him. Like, I guess he was like on the phone crying or something.
Wow.
And he's like, the warehouse is basically flooded. He tells him what happens.
Yeah.
So Sam like immediately drives there, and he gets there and just sees like devastation. Just imagine all of your equipment just like being flooded, basically.
Wow.
And I mean, I wasn't there to experience it, but Sam said like he just somehow like laughed at the situation. And I think maybe the day after he was just like, what are the odds we just recorded a song through the storms?
Right.
And then this happens the same night,
right.
And I wasn't supposed to record that night. I was supposed to record the night before, and just like it all lined up.
Yeah.
And I guess that the night the flood happened, this one guy came to the shop and was like, man, I think he just felt so bad for Sam, and just was saying like, man, I know your business is probably over now. And Sam was like, no, like we're gonna, I don't know, like God's faithful,
Yeah,
Sam
right.
kind of just laughed. For somehow he was just like laughing at the situation.
And his dad,
they didn't understand,
Yeah, well, his dad was crying while it was going on.
And the shop manager there was, they were like crying and embracing. But Sam just kind of laughed at it,
That's crazy.
And it turned out like miraculously, I think he said there was only $10,000 worth of damage.
Yeah.
Versus crazy. Like on equipment that's worth $2-3 million,
Yeah.
only $10,000, and they lost 1 day of production because they just had the employees clean up. No one got injured. Like that was it. And it's just like, and then everything was back to normal. Like you can't even tell that the whole building was flooded. So that was like a miracle.
That's crazy.
That's kind of the other side of the, story of Through the Storms was like what happened after recording it, at least recording it the first time, right? Was this event. And for us, like, I think that's part of the reason why this song is really significant. Is just the history that it carries for me personally in my life. And then like, as it relates to Anchored Music, Anchored Music was founded like on the rock and it's already like endured through the storms, quite literally, like the anchored businesses.
Right. Yeah.
So the fact that we're still here today doing this podcast, as you know, too, like you've been with us like a year or so or more, over a year. God has been faithful, like carrying us through, and there have been storms and things that we've walked through. But we're here for the long run. Man. Just because we believe that God is sustaining us somehow, somehow in some way that God's sustaining this whole thing. So
that's amazing, man. What a powerful testimony, man. That's crazy. That song it carries multiple meanings, it's like super deep. Tell me a little bit how Andrea came to be a part of the process. Cause I hear she's on it, featured on it a bit. Tell us a little bit about that process.
So Andrea was one of the first artists that we kind of interacted with, and we recorded some other stuff with her too. So that was part of it. Is like we got to know her and Manny, her husband, a bit more. We just like really connect well with them and love their hearts like for ministry and whatnot. So we already, I think, had signed Andrea and like wanted her to sing on different songs. So that was part of it. The other part was I am not like, I don't consider myself like a vocalist really. Like I can sing, but it's not like, it's ironic because my dad's a professional singer. But I didn't grow up like singing to that capacity. I grew up like singing when I was doing my homework or in the shower. You know what I mean? And it's not like a something I've really trained in, or you know?
I
so
feel you.
I'm just more timid when doing it, and I don't need to sing on a song that I wrote necessarily. That's the conclusion I came to. And at some point I just became comfortable like being the songwriter, whoever performed it. Like it's just like, okay, I don't need to sing it because I think someone else could probably do like a better job. Just not to put myself down, but it's like
too humble, man.
You know, we have to be realistic with certain things, you know?
It's true. Yeah.
You know, so it's like, I played drums on the original version, so I was comfortable doing that because I consider myself a drummer. I've been drumming for over 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's like singing is like, I don't really want to sing on this.
You probably haven't embraced your Phil Collins.
Where
you're drumming and singing.
Yeah, that's true, right? That's true. Most of the time, I would request that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like doing worship, they're like, I don't know about that. So yeah, Andrea singing on it was part of me kind of pulling back from like the lead vocalist role.
Yeah.
And it was that, and also the fact that we really just like love Andrea and Manny and really wanted her to shine on more things, right?
Yeah.
So putting those two together, it's like, okay, we're like, Andrea, can you sing this song?
Yeah.
And then I think Sam still wanted me to like be a part of it somehow. So I was like, okay, I can do the background vocals, I guess.
I can do a little BGV.
Yeah, it's like I can try to do that.
Yeah,
and,
I heard you peeking through a couple times. In the back.
I kept it simple. And working with our engineer in the studio, he was like, yeah, we can just do more like simple, keep it like kind of like a duet, you know?
Yeah.
And but yeah, her voice really shines, and it brings like another aspect to the song. Yeah. Because I always heard it with me singing it.
Right.
But now it's like Andrea's the one singing it, and there's like this, I don't know. It's just a different dimension or has different character now. Yeah. And I really enjoy the newest version that we have. So
yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, shoot, man, we appreciate you so much for taking the time, man, and sharing a bit of the testimony about that song and just the process. I mean, it's a pretty incredible process you guys have for that.
Yeah.
Do you plan to do more songs or more writing? Are you featured on more too with Anchored Records? Is there anything else that?
At the moment, I don't think so, but we do have some songs that when I wrote Through the Storms around that time, like I mentioned, we were writing other songs.
Yeah.
So we have some songs from that era of Anchored music that haven't like been released yet or really recorded. Yeah. And we want to bring those back. And I wrote on a majority of them. Okay. Another one I wrote, and then another one I like collaborated with like Sam and the other guys. Yeah. So yeah, there are some songs that we want to release. Yeah. At some point. Well, first we just need we'll probably again, have someone else sing on them. Yeah. And that's kind of a fun process. It's like you get to discern who would really fit the character of the song. Yeah. Whose voice would like really, bring it to life. Yeah. Who embodies the song really well. So we have some songs like that. I'm excited to see what happens with them. Yeah. Hopefully within the next 6 months or a year, like they'll actually be out. Yeah. And those are kind of like the original songs of Anchored music. Yeah. So.
And then this song is dropping in February, correct? Yeah,
February. I can't remember if it was the first week or the third week of February. We have like two songs coming out then. So
I think Steve sent it to me. Let me see. I think it's dropping February 24th.
February 24th. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm really excited, man. So people can pre-order your song February 6th. It'll be coming out February 24th.
I'm excited.
So y'all get up on there, Spotify, Apple Music, get your pre-orders on.
Please.
Get your pre-saves on. We need those pre-saves, man. Yeah. Boost the algorithms. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I appreciate you coming on, man, taking the time. I know you're a very busy guy. And
there's a lot going on. But
you seem to wear a lot of hats for Anchor. Yeah. So you're everywhere. But yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and share a bit of your testimony. We'll have to have you back on and share more about, I want to hear more about some of the missions work and stuff like that you do. And yeah, that'd be great to have you.
Yeah, there's a ton of stories there too.
I know, man.
Many countries, many stories, a lot of people and testimony. So
That's so good, man. I love it, man. Well, I'm proud of you, man, for finally
Thank you,
coming out
Kelly.
with this. Dude. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Of
And
course.
we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
God bless.